you got all this today. For those who have no idea what this is about. So first of all, we are the Latvia DevOps community. That's me from Accenture. That's Liana. Help me. What is Liana's company now? Who knows exact name? Marcis, Arturs, Printify. That's one of options.
No. The green one.
The green one. Yeah, there's maybe people don't want to know don't want others to know where they're from, but we have Marcis Weberis, we have Arturs Kovalenko, we have Muratan, we have Yelena, we have where's Agris, I'm sorry, I forgot the name. He just joined, a newcomer. So we're cool. We love DevOps, and we talk about everything because DevOps is about everything. And then we organize these monthly meetups, and you can find all the information on DevOps LV. So today, our special guest is Alexanders Zolotarios. If you look up this reindeer on LinkedIn, you will find out that he has, and now my Chrome is just frozen. This breaks the whole plan. But Alexanders, maybe you will share about yourself, so I can't do that much, but I'll tell you what. I saw on his LinkedIn profile that he is an expert in Microsoft technologies. He got a certification there some 2 years ago. But then he also decided that he could get a certification in Google Cloud, so he has that as well. And then I'm not sure is that his last achievement or that's an older thing, but he's certified as Kubernetes developer as well. And I'm sure there are more great things that Alexander has done. He has some 15 years of experience or so, maybe a little bit less, maybe I'm exaggerating. He will tell you more about it. And today's topic, the special Christmas edition, is, what was it, Alexander? What's the name?
Creating services using Kubernetes.
Yeah, so stay still, watch Alexander's, how he's doing magic. Everything is being recorded, so if you want to interrupt him in any way, you should enable your camera so that others know who is the bold person who can do this. Everyone is allowed to ask him questions anytime. We do have time for this today. Later on, Arturs will take over. I will explain you after Alexander's. That's also gonna be a fun part. Alexander's, I still don't see your screen share, so please bring it on and let's start.
All right.
Also, Alexander's in his free time is playing with reindeers and helping Santa.
All right, now my Chrome frozen.
Yeah, it says has started screen sharing, but that's all what I see.
All right, so I hear everyone, but my laptop froze.
When the last time you have updated your Zoom?
A few seconds ago, like minutes.
Alexanders, while you are trying to unfroze your laptop, maybe what else can we find on your LinkedIn profile? You know what? We'll do the following. Alexanders needs to restart something,
Yes.
and Kasper, Arturs, help me out. Arturs, where are you? Maybe Arturs, you now could give a very quick intro. What's gonna happen later, so that we are better prepared, without too much detail, but just so we know what to expect. And Alexanders, feel free to kill Zoom, restart, whatever you need.
Okay, so for those who are attending this event the first time, At the beginning, we will have a short presentation, and after the presentation, we will have, well, so to speak, the fun part, where everyone will have the option to voice, I don't know, some topics that they might need some help with, and you know, what you have asked about this to everyone inside your company, and no one can answer you. So this probably is the best place where you can ask it, or just chat with other people, or listen in about, I don't know, maybe some cool DevOps, cool DevOps concepts, so to speak. But yeah, first presentation, and the fun part only afterwards. And yeah, again, so not to make anyone nervous, you don't have to talk. You can talk only, well, if you want. It's not mandatory. Yeah, I guess that's all from my side.
Okay, thanks, Arturs. We are waiting for the great Alexander Zolotarios to return to the stage. In the meantime, maybe there's someone who simply would like to introduce himself or herself. Now is your moment of fame.
Help us. Please.
Tanya, what do you do? Just because we see you, so you seem like a brave person.
Hello. Yeah, you probably knew me because I'm your intern. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm just starting DevOps at November, and Alexander invited me to this meeting because I have a project with Kubernetes, so I want to gain some more experience about it. But now I'm quite a little bit busy researching on the Terraform variables. So if you can help me and tell me if the Terraform variable type number can be used as a variable index like lists, it will help because I cannot find how variable.index is used.
Any Terraform experts here? Because either you have a list and that's a list, or you have an array. Those are two different things, and then you
I'm just looking for something like so. When I have like some kind of, I will just type it in var..
Okay, so in the chat, people will be helping Tanya with Terraform exercise. Alexander, so I gave you back the host rights. How's it?
So no, we'll find it. I will find it myself. We just need to.
Feel free to put it in the chat. Yeah. I'm sure there's someone will help. Yes, we see the presentation. Alexander's, I'm ready for my dinner.
Cool. Yeah, second try a charm. All right, so let's start. My talk will consist of two parts, basically a theory, and then there will be some kind of practice, like let's say demo, which will be with some advanced things inside. Today we're going to talk about creation of services in Kubernetes, and let's just take off. A little bit about me. My name is Alexandros. As Uldis already introduced me. I'm working as a DevOps team lead at Accenture currently, and I have a bachelor degree in telecommunications and master in computer science. Yes, I have like quite many years of experience, for about like more than, I would say, 12 years in IT field, and I am certified as a Kubernetes application developer. So let's jump in. In order to, I almost forgot, and I also like baking cakes, and that's my cake, but let's leave it for another day. Let's move on. To kind of start and adjust the level of this talk, I would need to ask you some questions. So please raise your hands, or even better, if you will just tell me that if you're struggling or like really just starting with some stuff which I'm going to ask you about. So third thing is who is completely new to Linux? Either any people like this? And I will like give, yep, okay, we have one person. All right, so that's have you ever used actually Linux commands and so on? Okay, or Tanya, have you used any commands on Linux? Sorry, your voice is not there. Okay, so probably I know actually.
Oh
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
Using and loving it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that means that you have some experience already. All right, and who's completely new to servers or services and never like knew about it? Maybe there are some people who came to this meeting and is wondering what's all this is about. All right, so it's probably not that many people. Let's move on. And who is completely new to virtual machine concept? Never used or even heard about virtual machine and what it is. Okay, seems like we have pretty much everyone were more or less advanced here on the talk. All right, and who's not aware about Docker or containers? So let's just bring up, don't be shy. We will try to cover it if you need. All right, so we have some person who is new to Docker and containers. All right, so I would briefly explain what is Docker. Docker is actually something what allows you to run the kind of a virtual machine, but since like I expect everyone is aware about virtual machines, but in a much less resources, taking the Linux kernel from the host system, right? So since we are all like more or less know Linux here, I think this definition would be self-sufficient. All right, and the last question, do we have any experts in Kubernetes here during this late hours, I would say? Anyone who are using Kubernetes and have at least some, okay, so Mustafa, all right, thanks Mustafa. Actually, I would probably need your help then during today. So yeah, keep your ears alert. All right, let's move on. What topics we are going to discuss today? First of all, we are going to talk about the brief history of containers. I promise I will really keep it short, but I find it's kind of important. And then we are going to go through Kubernetes components, what it consists of, and what actually it have inside. Then we'll take a look about common kubectl commands. That's one of the tools which can be used to communicate with Kubernetes and control it. And then we would go through the second part of the talk, which is going to be a short demo where we'll deploy a web service. So let's start with a brief history of containers. Actually, it's all started, long time ago. At 1979, someone have written a special Unix command called chroot, well, chroot or whatever, how you can pronounce it, which allowed to kind of isolate the entire system. And since we all know about Linux here, it allowed to change the root directory to some kind of subdirectory, which will have all the Linux, let's say, files inside. So basically copy of Linux. Why is it required? It's because it's required when you need, for example, configure a completely new Linux system without even turning on or off your current workstation, for example. And like on the same workstation, you can configure all the files, tests, the programs, and stuff, ensure that actually the environment is working. And then you can just swap it, and voila, you will have a new Linux system. Because Linux is allowing for people to build their own distributions. After that, there was small intentions to kind of virtualize some applications, make them able to launch in a completely isolated environment. But it all was only attempts. But in 2006, one of the Google engineers created such thing as C groups. that was used. It was like named as process containers, but then it was renamed to C groups. It was used to kind of, let's say, isolate, like allow some kind of specific resource for the application. Let's say we wrote some kind of program which consumes a lot of memory, but we want to restrict it to use, let's say, 50 megabytes. So C groups were allowing to do that. And that was kind of useful because it were allowing to make sure that there would not be hangs in the system, because usually the process can take all the memory, let's say, and hang the entire system. That's actually what happened during the start of this meeting, right? When I, let's say, started the screen sharing, probably my RAM is overflowed or something, and it just everything crashed and hung. But I was able to communicate with you. And then there were like namespaces and LXC, but all of these components, why it's important? It's because all of them are used in Docker engine. And Docker actually allows to run these containers, which I've been already defining before. But the thing is that it doesn't allow to orchestrate it. In case you have multiple containers inside, like, and you want to scale them up or scale them in, it's kind of possible, but it's tricky. You need to write a lot of custom things, and that's where Kubernetes comes in. It allows you to scale up containers in very like huge like scales, and it allows to just bring all of that into the next level. So let's move on. What Kubernetes actually consists of? It consists of so-called nodes. It just, let's call it as, let's say, machines. Each node is going to be as a machine which runs actually containers, and it's all controlled by control plane, which kind of is the brain of the entire Kubernetes. And the idea is that this brain can be fed by so-called configurations, which you see on the left. It's just some kind of files which have information about what to run, what containers will be like. Well, okay, in Kubernetes, we have the smallest entity which can be deployed. It's called pods, right? And pod can contain, let's say, one or even more containers inside of it. But using this text, you can configure like design the way of what will be deployed into the Kubernetes. So that's the Kubernetes in the nutshell. You configure it with some kind of files. You push this into the control machine, which is like a brain of Kubernetes, and then it configures nodes to maintain the desired state. And the idea of Kubernetes is to continue maintaining this desired state. The idea is that once you configure something the brain to do, if something happens with a node, the brain will try to recreate the entire configuration to make sure that it's consistent. Okay, so I hope that more or less explains what is Kubernetes. So, and the thing is that to actually configure the Kubernetes using this code, which you write, you can use kubectl command, which actually will communicate with API with a special component of Kubernetes cluster, which will then direct nodes to kind of maintain the desired state, as it was told before. All right, so kubectl is it could be kind of complex, but in a nutshell, it's actually a very lightweight program, right? It's like it's a command which you can use on Linux, and it have some limited amount of parameters such as run, expose, get, and so on. We're going to take a look at this in a brief. But the idea is that you can use kubectl edit or kubectl apply to kind of manipulate this code and apply it to the Kubernetes brain. So it will consume it and feed it to the feed it later to the nodes, like it will be configuring it. All right, so let's move on now with the second part of my talk. So I'm like 10 minutes, I have like about 10 minutes, which is fantastic timing, I would say. We will start a lab in a moment, and there we will be deploying a web service. So let's jump in. To do so, actually, I need to switch to the Katacoda. That's an environment which allows you to run a virtual environment to test Docker, Kubernetes, or even Linux commands, and it's very useful. It's free, so you can use it. And after this talk, actually, I will send you the link so you can try it yourself. So what we are going to do, we are going to go through some easy steps, and by that we will get familiar with first kubectl. We'll find out how to speed up process, how to kind of use kubectl in a faster manner, and then we'll deploy a service and even do some kind of troubleshooting. All right, so since we have started, I need to run one command, which is minikube start, and give it about like half a minute to configure. Okay, even more, even faster to configure the cluster. And after configuring the cluster, that's actually minikube is something what can be used to speedily spin up the Kubernetes cluster to test it and to play around with its settings. Let's say we can use some commands such as kubectl get nodes to actually see how many actually nodes we have. So as I said, as I've been showing previously on the slides, there could be several nodes, right? So on this image, we have 3 nodes, but here currently we have only 1 node, which means actually it also is playing a role of control plane. That means it's actually the only one machine, right, which will run the pods, so containers inside. And actually, it will also have all the rest of the components which is required for Kubernetes to work. But the thing is that I can write kubectl get, let's say, pods to get the pods, or kubectl get describe pods, for example, to describe what is running, to see what actually happening inside of Kubernetes. But the thing is that writing kubectl, and see, I've even made the typo, it's quite time consuming. Really, when it takes like into configuring Kubernetes by typing kubectl 100 times will make you crazy. So therefore, let's configure it in an easier way to communicate. Let's make it easier to communicate with the cluster. Let's run a couple of commands on the left, which actually will allow me to use instead of kubectl, I will be able to run k get pods, right, and k get nodes. So firstly, I have just configured the alias to use k instead of kubectl, which will just save me tons of time by typing. And then I have configured auto-completion. It means that when I will write k, I can press tab twice, and this will actually show me all the commands which are available in Kubernetes, in kubectl. So we have, we can see that there are not that many of them, but those are like basic minimum which you required to know, and it's not that many as, for example, in Linux, you have like hundreds of commands which you can learn, right? But in kubectl, we have this set amount, and it's kind of useful to get to know each other. But the thing is that let's move on and just try to configure the service by yourself. I will also run some kind of shortcuts, which I will need by myself. It's just variables, which I will use to kind of speed up the process, because when you delete a pod, it takes about half a minute, right? But we don't have that much time, so let's move on. So let's firstly run command k run to run actually the pod. And after we are going to do that, we can see that there's going to be one pod, which is going to be in status container creating. That means actually that the container is created by the Kubernetes. So it's downloading the image, Docker image. It it starts the pod itself and spins up the Docker image, like, yeah, well, in our case, an image which is downloaded from Docker Hub. After some time, it will be running, and we actually can also expose the pod, which means we will be able to access it through the system where we are at currently, and to take the port to ensure like what port we can use to access the service which we are spinning up. We can use k get service command, and that will actually print us the port, which is 31969. Is just randomly picked from port range, and it's all binded to port 80 inside the container, right? So inside the pod, we have the port 80, which is opened, but outside the Kubernetes, we can access it through special port, which is from port range. So let's try to access it by using curl and using this port, actually, 31969. We can see that actually the service engines have responded to us. So it says that everything is working. And to do so, we can confirm that actually our service is working. It's bare minimum per engine service. But yeah, and optional, you can actually grab this port by using commands, but we are not really needing to do that. So let's move on. So let's see what if we are going to actually execute the command to print the file inside the container. Well, we can see the same contents, right, which we received by curl command. And the idea is that we actually can change those comments. Yeah, like we can change this file, and we can take a look that it's really changed. And after that, we'll see that if we are going to curl again with the same port, we'll see that we have changed the file inside the container, and now Nginx actually responds with the new contents of that file. And but the thing is that if we are going to delete that pod, we are going to run into one small issue. So let's say we'll delete it, then we'll run it again, and we'll try to take a look at the pods again. We'll see that it's running, and if we will do the curl again, well, everything is gone. So all changes we have made is vanished, right? So what we can do instead, we can actually make a special directory, and we can actually print out a specific, oh yeah, and now we have an error actually. And why do we have this error? I know, Mustafa, can you help out? What should we do? Are you available? Yay.
Yes, I'm available, and I couldn't see your last comment. Could you please show me what's the command and why?
So the command is kubectl run. I'm trying to run the image Nginx, but now it tells me that something is wrong.
Yeah, because that pod is already exist and running. So you need to delete that, or
okay. So how should I do it? Okay.
kubectl do, as far as I remember from your alias, kubectl delete that service name, and
so we need to delete that pod firstly, right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
Okay, let's see. So we done this. Now we created the new pod, and it technically should kind of work. Okay, so again, my servers exist. What does it mean? So probably that means that we have already created the service. So let's see if that's, yeah. So we have this my service, and that kind of it. Yeah, so we can create now a specific configuration which actually allow us to mount the local directory which we have created literally seconds ago. And that's actually done by using these YAML files. So if we are going to take a look into that file, into my service.yaml, we'll see that there are some man points and stuff like this. But the idea is that if I will delete the pod, I can actually export the current configuration of it. And I think that should be fixed. Okay, I think we have some kind of an issue. Let's say if we run the container, we need to get the first 3 lines of it. So let's try to okay, so I see that probably this command, let's try to, yeah, so my shortcut, my alias is my variable is not working, so I need to rerun it and take a look. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, now it works. So it should actually, yeah, now it should print the three first lines of the configuration which we have now. Okay, so not the three first lines, but excluding the three last lines. And if we're going to take a look now at the file, we'll see that there is a configuration for the current container. And after that, we can run the command which I wanted to execute to actually add some stuff at the end to configure the folder which we have made like literally a minute ago to be able to use for that index.html. So let's move on. After we're done with
Alex,
yep.
How much more time do you need?
1 minute.
Okay,
yep.
Let's do it.
Yep, sorry, I'm like 1 minute behind. So the thing is that I can actually run again deletion of the pod, right? And I can apply that YAML file which I have created. I can see that the pods are running, and after that, yeah, I can make sure that it works by using the curl command. Yep, so it's telling me that something wrong is happening, that it's forbidden, and I can written into that file actually, yep, the contents, and that's actually it. So we have currently mounted a folder for the container. So that's it. Yeah, I'm actually kind of finished. Yep, Mustafa, you have any questions?
Nope, actually,
Okay.
I just used clap emoji, but
okay, thanks. All this. So I'm kind of finished, and I'm going to send the link because that scenario is quite large, and at the end it's also using some advanced stuff which you can play around with. But that's kind of what I wanted to show, that if we're going to delete now the pod and create it again, and we are going to use curl, it will still have the same file which will be responding. So we'll not need to be worried that after we'll do some changes and if we'll destroy the entire cluster, that the file which we have created will be gone. Yeah, that's it.